Hello guys. So for my presentation today, I will basically be talking about how we can analyze party support by referring to the voters' demographic breakdown by using an example from the UK's 2019 general election. There is a large amount of research that targets at analyzing 2017 and 2019's general elections in the UK. So basically for my presentation today, I borrowed some of the charts and tables from those research available online. So I hope that from today's presentation, you will get some insights when you analyze your own country's party system and elections. You can know how to represent your data in your paper and your future presentation. Before going into the details of the demographic information, we can probably take a quick look at the voter turnout. To explain briefly, voter turnout is the percentage of those who are eligible to vote who actually voted in the election. As you can see from the bar chart, in 1992, the voter turnout was 77.7%, but in 2019, it was 67.3%. So there is a slight decline, but there isn't a huge change. And there also is a slight decline compared to 2017. And now let's take a quick look at the actual election results. So when we look at the two major parties, Conservative Party and Labour Party, you can see that Conservative Party has done better and Labour Party has done worse. If we take a look at the age breakdown, we can easily see that older people, they tend to vote for the Conservative Party, whereas the younger generations, they tend to vote for the Labour Party. So probably it's safe to say that age is an important predictor or indicator for party voting in this scenario. So after looking at the age, we now continue to look at the gender. If we simply look at the gender itself, we don't see an obvious trend or pattern for party voting. However, if we break down into different age ranges, we can see that for young people, gender matters a lot. As you can see, young women who aged 19 to 24, they voted more for the Labour Party. After looking at the age and gender, we can probably look at educational background. So for educational background, it is another key predictor or indicator for party voting. We can see that for voters with lower education background, they tended to vote more for the Conservative Party. And those with higher education, such as an undergraduate degree, they tended to vote more for the Labour Party. Now, it's very interesting if we could compare the voting behavior of the voters in 2019 election and their attitudes toward the Remain or Leave camps during the EU referendum in 2016. As you can see, the Conservatives managed to win the votes of about 3/4 of Leave voters. However, the Labour Party managed to only take about half of the Remain voters. And now let's take a look at two other factors which might not be so obvious. One is region, one is social grade or social class. As we can see from the chart on the left-hand side, region is not a good predictor compared to education or age. But one obvious point can be made about region. Those who are in London, they tend to vote more for the Labour Party. And let's look at the chart on the right-hand side. We can see that social grade is no longer a good predictor of party voting. In the past, you probably could argue that the working class or the blue-collar class, they were affiliated to the Labour Party, but right now it's no longer the case. So up until this point, we could probably conclude that party loyalty and party affiliation is no longer so relevant to the younger voters. Although education, age, and gender, they still play important roles in determining which parties the voters choose. Right now, we see that social class is no longer a good predictor. And this point is made really obvious if we look at the votes in the blue-collar constituencies in 2017 and 2019 elections. It is pretty clear that the Conservative Party has mobilized more votes from the blue-collar constituencies representing the working class. And lastly, if we look at the voter volatility of the switching between the two major parties, we could see that there is a huge jump. In other words, there isn't much party loyalty between the 2017 and 2019 elections. So, in summary, we don't see a traditional class divide when we compare the votes of the two elections for the two major parties. And also, the Conservative Party has performed better than the Labour Party, with mobilization related to the issue of Brexit. And whether in the future the parties will strategically cater for the demands of the voters based on a single issue is something that we can observe, whether it's about European integration or some other policy implications. This is a really short presentation, and I didn't really have time to include the observations from smaller parties or other elections in the past. But if you're interested in looking deeper, you can use the databases available at the British Election Study, and you can compare across periods, time series, and parties.